Hey everybody, Jem Schofield here with the C47, and today I'm going to show you what's inside of this little brown box. Okay, so here it is, the towel light. Let's go ahead and open it up and see what's inside of this sucker. Nice packaging. Open it up here. That's the light fixture itself. It is about the same size as a smartphone, and it's got a heatsink here. Oh yeah, okay, I remember this. So this is a piece of standard gel which has been cut to size for the towel light itself, because this is a daylight balanced light fixture. And it's interesting because this material here that's in front of this LED fixture has a little bit of tack to it. So the gel just sits right on here. So that's the first two bits out of the box. Let's see what else we've got inside of here. Power supply here with universal adapters. So this is obviously a worldwide fixture that you can use in a lot of different places. A little neoprene pouch, which I'm assuming is for the light fixture itself. Let's just see. Okay, so that just goes in there. It's a very, very snug fit though. So the question will be, start to put batteries and stuff onto this fixture, what happens with that? Though, based on this build quality, I don't think it really needs a lot of protecting. Standard Sony NPF compatible battery. We've got a battery plate here, which is going to go onto the back of the light here. It looks like there's two places that I can actually attach it. So that's that. We've got a battery charger. I would assume, even though this is probably not going to draw a lot of power, that I'm going to want to put a slightly larger one on there. Comes with a ball mount. Comes with a little cold shoe to quarter 20 adapter. So all in all, it looks like everything that you would need comes in the box. The only thing that I could think of would be having additional batteries. It's going to go ahead and attach this sucker and put it onto the back of the light. Let me just see here. So it just slides into one of those grooves, and then that'll plug in there. That's a, okay, you know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to reverse it for myself, and that way for the cable itself, I'm kind of automatically making sure that I don't have a lot of slack on the cable. So I'm going to put it into this particular hole here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and tighten that down. So just give me a second here. We'll go into fast motion land. And that's plugged in. Battery goes right on. It has a little release here so it doesn't fall out accidentally. And then I'm just going to go ahead and press the button here, and there it is. Wow, okay. So that's it on its lowest setting. And then there's the next, the next, the next, and then there's full power, which is very, very bright. And you can see that's a daylight balance. I'm actually lighting this studio right now tungsten, so so that's what the camera's balanced to. So of course this daylight is reading as very, very blue. You can see immediately one of the nice things about this light, which is how wide the spread is. This is obviously a little bit too bright for what we're trying to do here. It's kind of like a cross between a standard LED with phosphor on each of the diodes and a remote phosphor system. It's not remote phosphor, and it's not your standard. It's just this big phosphor panel that's sitting over lots of little diodes, which when you turn the light on and you look at it, you can in fact see those little diodes, but you're not going to see those multiple shadows the same way you're going to see them with some of the other ones that have larger LED diodes. One of my pieces of input, though I think that the design of this light was already too far along, was I would really like to have granular control over the output of the light. Because right now you have these steps that are very usable in terms of what you can do. So there's off. There's the first step, second step, third, fourth, and then full power. But what they've done here, and I guess that's what this other little input is for, is they have put a little dimmer unit into the case. I am going to take this little dimmer and attach it to the side. So yeah, I would love it to be just a dimmer all the same. That's how I would really like the light to work. But at least they're giving you a solution for that granular control. Okay, so now the dimmer is attached, and I'm going to run that to that other input here, plug it in. Okay, and now it's just a standard dimming light. So it seems to, once you plug it in, it seems to override the button that's on the unit in terms of that step control. Let me just unplug it, and then you'll see that there's the step control, and then we'll plug in the dimmer unit, and yep, it just overrides and then becomes a dimmable unit. It is one more cable, and I probably just tie that down a little bit. But for me personally, I think the way I'd like to use a light on a regular basis is with the dimmer unit. And then again, if I just take one of these pre-cut gels here, which seem to cover the phosphor relatively well, there's one tiny little place at the end here where I can sort of see past it. So let me just see what happens when I turn that on. It's interesting though, I don't really see any bleed from the daylight just because of how big the phosphor panel is. I barely see it right there on the edge, which I don't really think is going to be an issue. Now looking at the dimmer here, there are no markings. So that might be something that you'd want to create yourself on here, just as some sort of reference point. I could see taking maybe like a white permanent marker and putting it into the grooves of the dimmer knob so that you had some sort of idea of repeatability. But other than that, really, really solid. The whole purpose of these smaller lights is they can fit in your back pocket. You can put 2, 3, 4 of these inside of a backpack. They have a lot of light output for their size, tremendous light output for their size in terms of what you can do. But very oftentimes, even though we do have what looks to be about 110, 120 degree spread out of this light, you are going to want to take something like this and make it into a bigger source at times, either by taking something and bouncing it. I actually have a 4x4 here. Or putting it through some larger piece of diffusion so that you can make a larger source, which I love to do. Okay, so we've got some diffusion, got some gels if I want to use it, some stands, very small setup, so nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm going to go ahead and take this stuff along with the tile light. Actually, I have 2, so I'm going to go set up the second one and only use those 2 lights and this stuff and maybe some available light. And let's see what we come up with. This is what I came up with just in terms of a basic setup. In fact, let me go ahead and turn off the ambient light, which is just a flex being bounced right now. So you can see pretty much starved of light, even though there's a window there. In terms of where we're going to point it, we're really not seeing much ambience, and I'm going to block that even more. So let's get the house lights back on. And basically, if I just back off here, because I'm on a fixed focal length lens, I have a couple of these compact light stands here, spread apart, and I've got a 4-foot by 4-foot piece of diffusion here. This is part of the Scrim Gym Cine system. This is actually from my booklight kit, which is a 4x4 frame, which I would set up for sort of a client shoot. But the point is that we're taking this little tile light here, and we are going to push it through this larger frame because I like to do that. It creates a larger, nicer source. You'll notice here that I have very gingerly resting on the light stand a piece of black foam core. That's really just to take some light off of that background over there, which is spilling from the left side from where I'm standing of this key light. If you're looking at it from Talent, it would be light that would be spilling from there onto the background. So I'm just flagging some of it because the Talent is basically sitting in this space over there. And then behind Talent, I've just taken a little clamp with a ball mount and put that onto another tile light. That's going to be a little kicker. It's going to kick. And then over here, I've just taken a piece of foam core and I've used an A-clamp and I've clamped that just as a return. So we're going to come over here and we're going to turn on this towel light. So we'll put that up to full brightness. And now, of course, you can see that that's coming right through that diffusion panel. So that's pretty obvious in terms of what's happening. And then I'm going to turn off the house lights. So that's just a little ambience. And you can see, of course, that that key is now bouncing right off of that foam core. I'm going to go over here and we're going to turn on this little sucker. So let me just go ahead and turn that on. Let's see, somewhere probably around there. There's the first towel light going through that diffusion panel. There's the second one over there acting as a little kicker. And there's that fill card. I'm just going to place this down onto the tripod so we can kind of get our little frame here. So going over to this position, and you can see this is a relatively simple light setup. Might be looking camera left a little more drastically in terms of my angle and being interviewed by somebody. If I was going to look a little bit more to camera, or just off, but sort of towards camera, then I might wrap this fill in and bring it in a little bit closer. And that all has to do with sort of where you want your ratios to be and stuff like that. This little light here is barely on, and it's just giving a little bit of a kick, a tiny bit of separation. I wouldn't even always use that, but I do like that option and how easy it is to rig in terms of its size. Completely silent because there's no fan. It's got a heat sink built into it, and I would absolutely get additional batteries. You're going to need them. I'm impressed. I think that they've come up with a nice fixture here that I can use on a lot of different projects. The fact that somebody could go ahead and set up 3 or 4 of these into a case and use them for different types of applications, I think is fantastic. Just be aware that even though they have a lot of output for their size, that they only have a certain amount of output. And so when you're dealing with lots and lots of ambient light, you can expect to use this as something for fill, but not necessarily as a key source, especially if you're going to go ahead and bounce or heavily diffuse that light to create a larger, more scattered, diffused light source. There's so many options nowadays, but I think that this is definitely one to consider inside of your kit. And thanks for watching.